On 5 News, the attempted abduction of a serviceman near an RAF base. 2 men were involved. One had a knife. Police say terrorism cannot be ruled out. Also, the ban on Russian athletes competing at the Rio Olympics. Russian officials react with anger as 68 athletes lose their appeal. But Usain Bolt tells us he backs the ban.
This will scare a lot of people, send a strong message to let you know that the sport is serious. We want to clean the sports up.
Vitamin D warning. Doctors say everyone should take supplements or risk problems with their health. And Prince Harry and Sir Elton John join forces to raise awareness of HIV.
What I believe is that we cannot beat HIV without giving young people in every country the voice that they deserve.
Welcome to 5 News. I'm Danny Sinha. A manhunt is underway after 2 men attempted to abduct a serviceman at an RAF base in Norfolk. The victim, who wasn't in uniform at the time, was jogging when he was approached by the pair. He fought one of them off before running away from the other, who was armed with a knife. Searches are continuing in the Marham area for the 2 men, who are thought to be of Middle Eastern origin. Well, the motivation for that attack remains unclear, but detectives say they're not ruling out terrorism. Dominic Reynolds reports.
Civilian police out in force on a military base. RAF Marham is home to hundreds of service personnel. Yesterday, one managed to escape what police say could have been an abduction motivated by terror. A serviceman was jogging down this road outside the base when it's alleged a man emerged from a parked car and tried to drag him into it.
The first suspect allegedly shouted at him and had made an attempt to grab him. The victim successfully fought him off, causing the suspect to fall to the ground. The second male approached the victim but noticed his accomplice on the ground, so went to assist him in their escape. It was at this point the victim ran to obtain help. The second male was armed with a knife. That knife has not been located.
The descriptions police have issued are detailed. The first suspect is thought to be between 20 and 30 years old, 6 feet tall and of a stocky build and a well-groomed beard. The second man is thought to be younger and of a slimmer build than the first. He's clean-shaven with short dark hair. Both were described as looking Middle Eastern. We know that military personnel are targets for terrorists. In April, Junaid Khan from Luton was found guilty of planning an attack at RAF Lakenheath in Suffolk. It's thought he intended to stage a car crash and then attack servicemen. And it's now 3 years since Fusilier Lee Rigby was killed on the streets of South London by Michael Adebowale and Michael Adebolajo. The base was hosting families and friends today, the summer party, a summer party which now has a different atmosphere.
I think it's really scary because I thought we was really safe here being near the camp, but it just shows you know, anything can happen anywhere really.
I just think it's so sad that something like that should happen, especially the day before there's a big event on.
RAF police were out to reassure families this afternoon, but a major investigation is now underway to find out who did this and perhaps more importantly, why.
And Dominic, what more can you tell us then?
Well, I touched on it there, and the first thing to say is this isn't definitely a terror attack. It's being handled by Norfolk Police, not by counter-terror police, and they say that a terror motivation is one of several hypotheses that they're looking at. One thing that may well be important is that the serviceman, who wasn't in uniform, by the way, the serviceman who was attacked says that the first person who grabbed him said something, shouted something as he did. We don't know, unfortunately, what that person said because the serviceman was out jogging. He was listening to music on his headphones. For the police tonight, the focus of their investigation is the vehicle that these men are thought to have got out of. It's described as a dark-coloured people carrier, and tonight the police want to find it.
Dominic, thank you very much. The controversy over Russia's Olympic team continued today as a court ruled that 68 of their track and field athletes will be banned from Rio. Their appeal was rejected after evidence emerged of state-sponsored doping, an allegation the Russians have always denied. Well, the International Olympic Committee must now decide whether to ban the entire Russian team from competing. Julian Drucker reports.
The greatest sporting show on earth gets underway in 15 days' time. But we now know 68 athletes won't be making the trip from Russia to Rio. They'll remain banned following claims the country ran a state-sponsored doping program. The Russian Olympic Committee appealed a decision taken by athletics' world governing body. But today it was ruled the suspension was legal.
The Court of Arbitration for Sport has dismissed the request filed by the Russian Olympic Committee and 68 Russian athletes.
Athletes like world champion hurdler Sergei Shubenkov will now be excluded. He stresses he's clean, but the ruling could mean the entire Russian Olympic team is banned from the Games. Russian high jumper Maria Kuchina is horrified. The world has gone mad, she said. What is going on? Why should I sacrifice my everything? Russia's sports minister Vitaly Mutko is considering the country's next step. This decision, he said, violates the rights of clean and honest sports people. And as his country stands accused of a deep-rooted culture of doping, President Putin, seen here when Russia hosted the Winter Olympics, insists the decision is wrong. The undisputed star of London 2012 disagrees. He's back in the city to take part in a race tomorrow, and he told 5 News upholding the ban was crucial.
If you're cheating, I always feel like it's a good message to show that, listen, if you cheat or if you go against the rules, then we're going to take serious action. This will scare a lot of people or send a strong message to let you know that the sport is serious. We want to clean the sports up.
A handful of Russian athletes could still compete in Rio, but as neutrals who would have to have been tested outside their homeland. A country now mired in sporting shame. Julian Drucker, 5 News.
Police in Brazil have arrested 10 people they suspect are planning acts of terrorism during this summer's Olympic Games. Well, we can now join Olivia Kinsley, who's in our newsroom. And Olivia, what more can you tell us?
Well, we've just learned in the past hour that 10 people have been arrested in Brazil. We do know that they are all Brazilian citizens and that they didn't know each other directly, but that they'd been communicating online. We don't know if they'd got as far as planning on attacks on specific venues, if they'd picked major stadiums or some of the smaller venues. The police there say it was a disorganised planning process and that they picked them up and arrested them after picking up online chatter with them discussing and praising events like the attack in Nice last week. Now, security had already been stepped up in Brazil, a response to the global threat of terrorism there. We don't understand that the 10 people arrested today are members of so-called Islamic State, that group, but we do understand that they had been trying to contact them online. Some 500,000 people are expected to be going over to watch the Games in Rio. That'll be tourists, that'll be athletes, and with that in mind, of course, Rio is going to remain a major target for terrorists like the group members of Islamic State.
Olivia, thank you. Oscar Pistorius' 6-year prison sentence is set to be appealed by South African prosecutors who've described it as shockingly lenient. The Paralympic athlete was jailed earlier this month for murdering his girlfriend Reeva Steenkamp back in 2013. Most NHS trusts will no longer be fined for missing key targets. It's part of a plan to dramatically cut the NHS deficit, which has reached £2.4 billion over the last year. Penalties for missing targets for A&E units, cancer and routine operations have all been scrapped. Labour leader Jeremy Corbyn has launched his campaign to keep his job, insisting that he can take the party to power with him as Prime Minister. It promises to be a fierce contest between him and former Shadow Cabinet colleague Owen Smith. Well, Mr Corbyn told our political editor Andy Bell that MPs opposing him should think about their responsibilities to the party.
He was accompanied by just 2 MPs, but that's kind of the point. Jeremy Corbyn is fighting for his leadership because the Labour Party in Parliament has overwhelmingly decided he can't win. He thinks differently.
Listen, this party is going places. This party is strong. This party is capable of winning a general election. And if I'm leader of the party, I will be that Prime Minister.
In just the last 48 hours, more than 180,000 people have paid £25 to have a vote in this leadership election. Now 500,000 in all will choose the next leader. The current leader told me his opponents should think about that.
I say to MPs, think very carefully about this. We have a responsibility to those that founded and made this party survive, those who've made this party so strong, and all those hundreds of thousands that have come on board because they want a different society in Britain. Having a big membership isn't a cause for concern, it's a cause for joy and it's a cause for hope.
He's being challenged by Owen Smith, who has the backing of most Labour MPs, but it's the party members who decide. And last year they chose Jeremy Corbyn. Huda and Rohi say MPs should remember that.
I think they also need to remember where they come from, and in our Labour Party is a democratic socialist party. That's what it says on our membership card, and I feel like they're not really respecting the democratic part of that at all.
Is it more important to kind of build the sort of movement that you want? Is that more important than winning the next election?
I think once the movement is built, it will win the next election. I don't think that they're mutually exclusive. I think that one will lead very naturally onto the other.
Online, both pro and anti-Corbyn camps have been trying to sign people up. Frankie O'Byrne is an anti.
There have been so many great things that a Labour government has done, created the NHS, and that is what I see. That is what I want to see again. And I think that under Corbyn we just don't have that. I think he's happy being right. He's not happy being in power.
Get ready for a very divisive election.
So, Andy, what else did Jeremy Corbyn have to say?
Well, there's a bit of a row about reselection. Now, the one thing that Labour MPs really fear is being deselected by their constituency parties. Today, Jeremy Corbyn said that there would be an open selection process because there will be boundary changes in 2018. That's been ordered by the present government. And therefore, constituencies will change and therefore there will probably be open selection for candidates. Now, afterwards, his team said to me, this is just the natural thing that's going to happen because of those boundary changes. But I understand from MPs who are backing Owen Smith, they are concerned about this and certainly regard it as a threat to them if they oppose Jeremy Corbyn. So we have weeks of this to run until September. I think the atmosphere between Jeremy Corbyn and the vast majority of his MPs is only going to get much worse.
Andy, thank you. Still to come on the programme. Not enough sun, why the British weather means we all need supplements for vitamin D. And is Big Sam going to be the saviour of English football? All that and more after the break. Welcome back. You're watching 5 News. We should all be taking vitamin D supplements in the autumn and winter months. That's the latest advice from Public Health England. Levels of vitamin D deficiency in Britain are the highest in 50 years. Experts blame poor diet and people not getting enough sun. Well, it can cause brittle bones and rickets in children. Frankie McCamley has the details.
When the weather's like this, there's nothing better than getting outside and enjoying the sun, which is also one of the best sources of vitamin D. So how much do we really think about the health benefits of being out here?
I do worry about the light and getting enough sunshine, but probably not about my vitamin D levels.
Well, I'm aware of it, yes, and spend plenty of time outside, so it doesn't seem like an issue during the summer.
I've always felt I get enough because I do. I enjoy the sun and I don't worry too much about it.
It's not just the sunlight. Certain foods such as oily fish, mushrooms and some dairy products provide limited amounts of the vitamin. And if you don't get enough there, then supplements are another way to top up levels. But a report's found people in England aren't getting enough vitamin D. Official estimates believe 1 in 5 adults and 1 in 6 children may already have low levels. So experts now recommend that everyone should take 10 micrograms of vitamin D a day between October and March, the equivalent of 2 tins of tuna. Children aged 1 to 5 should be given the supplement all year round. Babies who are breastfed should also be given a similar dose, but formula-fed babies should already be getting enough. The advice has had a mixed reaction here in Shropshire.
I mean, in the winter, yeah, we do kind of lack vitamin D in this country, so I try to get some drops down him somehow or another, I'm sure.
I know I've had the vitamin D deficiency before myself, so I'd want to make sure that she'd not suffer with that.
We won't be taking the supplements every day, so I think we just need to let our kids get outside.
Short bursts of sunlight without sunscreen is also recommended, but what happens if we don't get enough of the vitamin?
For adults, we're talking about things like osteomalacia, which is about muscle weakness, about bone strength, and you can also get pain. And for infants, if they're not getting enough, you will get poor growth, they could get painful joints, and at its worst case, that could lead to rickets.
So while the sun lasts, no matter what the activity, having fun and staying healthy can work in harmony. Frankie McCamley, 5 News.
Donald Trump's Republican rival Ted Cruz has been booed at the party's convention after failing to back the billionaire businessman for president. Well, Mr. Cruz lost out to Donald Trump for the presidential nomination. He congratulated him, but then he stopped short of an official endorsement. Prince Harry has joined Sir Elton John in South Africa to host an HIV conference. Harry's mother, of course, Princess Diana, was a prominent AIDS campaigner, and the Prince has followed in her footsteps. His charity, Sentabile, already supports children affected by HIV in Lesotho, but now he wants to spread awareness of the virus beyond the African country. Minnie Stevenson has more details.
The Prince and the pop star. Today, Harry and Sir Elton John stood together. Their mission, to raise awareness about HIV around the world. Their stage, the AIDS 2016 conference in South Africa. And their message was clear.
What I believe is that we cannot beat HIV without giving young people in every country the voice that they deserve. Without education and without empowerment, HIV will win.
The fact of the matter is, young people are being left out and left behind in the AIDS response, and it needs to stop. It needs to stop. It needs to stop here and now.
How am I feeling? Yeah, nervous.
Just last week, Prince Harry began his own very personal campaign to raise awareness by being publicly tested for HIV. It's thought over 100,000 people currently live with the condition in the UK. 17% of those are not even aware they have the infection. Harry's campaigning is, of course, reminiscent of his mum, Princess Diana's own charity work in the 80s. When she famously shook hands with AIDS patients, Diana wanted to break down the stigma surrounding HIV. And today, Harry proudly said she did.
When my mother held the hand of a man dying of AIDS in an East London hospital, no one would have imagined that just over a quarter of a century later, treatment would exist that could see HIV-positive people live full, healthy, loving lives.
As they left, royalty and pop royalty wrote messages, words they hope the world will see and hear. Minnie Stevenson, 5 News.
Sam Allardyce is expected to be named as the man charged with picking up the pieces for England's footballers after their disappointing performance at Euro 2016. FA Chairman Greg Dyke says he believes the right candidate has been chosen. So what makes Big Sam the man for the job? Warren Nettleford has been finding out.
Turning into the Sunderland training ground this morning, Sam Allardyce gave journalists a thumbs up. And it seems he's received a similar sign from the FA. When he signs his next contract, he'll be fulfilling a lifelong ambition in becoming the new England manager. It will be his job to turn a team of serial underachievers into winners. England's latest tournament exit has become all too familiar for fans. Football pundits hope Big Sam could be the answer.
We've looked around to see who's best available as an Englishman to come in, and there's nobody more equipped than Sam. The one thing he will do is deal head-to-head with all the players, tell them what he expects of them. If they don't deliver, they'll be out. There won't be any excuses, won't be saying, oh, well, he's going to come good in a couple of games' time. Sam isn't like that.
He's right. He isn't like that. As a player, Sam Allardyce made his name as a no-nonsense midfielder in the lower leagues. As a manager, he achieved success at Bolton Wanderers, establishing the small club in the Premier League, attracting big players and qualifying for Europe. He hasn't won many trophies, though. This triumph came with Notts County, winning Division 2. Although his style of football is seen as functional rather than fluid, he still has the backing of the FA.
Oh, clearly the three-man group are convinced he's the right man, and I go along with that, yes.
Last season, Allardyce guided Sunderland to survival in the Premier League when it seemed almost certain they'd be relegated. England's humiliation to Iceland was a step too far. For a footballing country that has repeatedly grabbed defeat from the jaws of victory, the FA are betting on Big Sam to finally bring big success to England. Warren Nettleford, 5 News.
Fingers crossed. Well, that's it from us. I'm back at 6:30 for 5 News Tonight, when we'll be hearing from the man who helped write Sam Allardyce's autobiography. And after that attack on an RAF serviceman in Norfolk, I'll be asking if security for members of the armed forces should be stepped up. Well, Sean Welby has got the weather next, and I'll be back in an hour's time. Thanks very much for watching. Have a lovely evening. Bye for now.